Raise some
Cain. You gotta raise some Cain. In the heartland where the faith runs strong, we've seen the shadows growing long. Watch those around us be deceived. Yeah, the fight is at our doors, no matter who we believe. Corruption, lawless day and night, we'll speak the truth into the light. We'll bring the battle, heed the call, watch the whole thing fall. We gotta raise some Cain, show the lies, break some chains and make things right. Feel the power, be the change, time is now. We gotta raise some Cain.
Welcome to the Raising Cain Show. I'm your host, Nate Cain, and tonight we have a very special guest who's been fighting on the front lines for education reform, family values, and conservative principles right here in West Virginia. Senator Patricia Rucker, a first-generation American born in Caracas, Venezuela, has served as the state senator for District 16 since 2016. Her leadership as chair of the Senate Education Committee has made her a key figure in shaping the future of education in our state. From her background as a school teacher to her efforts in the West Virginia Senate, Patricia brings a unique perspective that is deeply needed in today's political landscape. Today, we'll dive into her legislative accomplishments, the state of education, her personal story, and what's next for West Virginia as she seeks re-election. Senator Rucker, it's an honor to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you so much. It's an honor for me. I'm really grateful for the invitation.
Well, I want to just start by sharing a personal kind of testimony about you that I experienced when I was running for Congress, and not only that, but also just in a lot of the activism and stuff that I've been involved with. When I was trying to push to get some changes done in the legislature, and we were authoring a bill to get in there, I remember reaching out to several senators and several members of the House, and I realized, people are busy and they got, busy schedules and everything, but you were the only one who actually wrote me back and answered the questions that I had about the bill and where it stood. And that's something that I don't forget. And it's something that I don't take lightly either. I'm not your constituent, but you answered my question, and, and you worked hard to try to get some good things passed. And that speaks to me a lot about your character and about who you are as a person, and about the fact that you care. You actually really do care about the people that you serve. And I think that's awesome. So I just wanted to share that right out the gate. And I guess, I don't know, there may be some people who don't know you and don't know anything about you. So that might be a good place to start with. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about your journey from Caracas, Venezuela, to becoming a state senator in West Virginia? How has your background shaped your political career and values?
Well, thank you. I am always happy to talk about that, because I truly am an example that the American dream is still alive and well. My parents brought us from Venezuela because of my father's job, and it was supposed to be temporary. We were going to return to Venezuela and our family. But as many people know, things have changed a lot in Venezuela. I did fall in love and get married, and I'm the mother of 5 beautiful Americans with my husband of 28 years.
Wow.
And I can tell you, we moved into West Virginia mainly because of the lower prices and trying to find, a decent home to raise our children, which was hard to do in the suburbs of DC. But I fell in love with West Virginia. West Virginia, completely is in sync with the way I think about the world. It's patriotism, the people, the way they they're just lovely, and they want to help you. And there's never a time in West Virginia that you pull over to the side of the road because something's wrong with your car, and you will not wait long, and someone's going to pull over and say, how can we help you? And it's that kind of thing that just makes me fall in love with it. When I first got involved in politics, it was because of my ignorance. When I fought hard to get my citizenship in 2004, I was, so excited. And I finally get to vote after all these years. And by the way, I was a Rush baby. I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh like so many, and my children all had to listen to Rush Limbaugh as part of our, day. But I got that right to vote. I go into that ballot box, and I knew who to vote for president, governor, but I didn't know all these local seats. And I was literally ashamed of myself. Here I am, a history teacher. I had fought for years to get this right, and I was not prepared. So I made a vow to myself that would never happen again. And I would become an educated voter, and I would go to the local forums, and I would read the local news, and I would find out who these folks are representing me. And I'm very sad to say, the more I found out about the folks representing me, the less happy I was. And
that's usually how it works.
I wish I could say otherwise, but no. So then I actually got involved trying to recruit better candidates. I wanted to have people I could vote for. Whenever I would I basically encourage someone to run for office, I, of course, would tell them, and I will help you. So then that got me started campaigning, going door to door, doing things for the candidates that I convinced to run, got several of them elected, and then came that fateful day in which God called me to put my name in the hat too. And I have to say I had everything against me, because I was not only not a native West Virginian, not even a native American. Nobody knew me. I had been a stay-at-home mom for years, so it's not like I was involved in a whole lot of activities. I didn't have money to put into my own race. My husband's a nurse working 2 jobs so that I could stay home. And it was just like, no one thought this stay-at-home mom was going to beat this incumbent with money and power name ID. Well, I will tell you that the first time I ran, I did lose, but I only lost by 131 votes. And it caused people to go like, what the world? Who is this woman? How did she get that close? And that was kind of like my initial interest and bite. I found out through that campaign that I loved going door to door. Totally love it. Just love it. I could do it all the time. And if that was my only job as a legislator, I would be always happy. Unfortunately, you got to do the other political stuff, but the door to door is great. And I decided to run again for a Senate seat, which is a much bigger, West Virginia Senate seat. And that's the one that I won in 2016. And obviously, how did it inform me? I am not ever going to be able to go back to Venezuela. It has become a socialist nightmare. I'm never going to see my aunts and uncles and cousins. And I can tell you that I definitely am concerned about where America is headed. And I got involved in politics because I want to protect America. I swore an oath to that Constitution, as I know you did, Nate.
Yes.
And I also, am very, very concerned about the very many socialist elements that are entering American politics.
Yeah. You mentioned something about when you first came here to West Virginia, how just warm and welcoming people were. And I was not expecting that. I was also an outsider, somebody who moved here, from somewhere else. And I thought that when I ran for Congress that, I was going to have a lot of people, treat me differently because I wasn't born here. And it was exact opposite. The people I met here were the most kindest, warmest. I had volunteers who brought us into their home and let us stay under their roof, so I didn't have to spend money on hotels, and I didn't have to ask them. They invited us. And even though I stayed at some of these people's houses multiple times, I didn't wear out the welcome. They were just amazing and just gracious. There was just a warmth and there's something here in West Virginia that unfortunately has been lost in most of the country. You have a real sense, I think, of duty to God and country here that still exists in most of West Virginia, and I think that's a really wonderful thing. So a lot of what you've worked on and what you're kind of known for is your role as chair of the Senate Education Committee. You've championed several education reforms. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing West Virginia's education system today? And what are some of the solutions you've been working on?
So West Virginia is unfortunately not doing great when it comes to their outcomes. So despite being 18th in the nation in terms of funding of our students, we're not seeing those results really that we would like. And we do struggle with population loss in the state, and our kids, the ones who graduate, are leaving the state. It's hard to convince teachers, educators to move into a small rural state. We have so many challenges. But the greatest challenge of all, I believe, is the fact that folks have lost hope. They don't feel that they can really change things. And I see it in some educators who feel like, yeah, our kids, they're different than other kids. They come from traumatized backgrounds. They're poor. You're not able to really help them. They're not going to ever be good students. And it's like, no, that's a wrong attitude to have. And poverty does not say anything about your capabilities, as we know from several of our presidents
Right.
and other leaders. And then I also see it in the students and the parents, where it's just feeling that, well, it won't matter anyways. My family worked in the coal mines. That's all I'm ever going to need to do. I don't need to keep going to school. Parents who also don't value education for its sake, who feel that I need that child to be working as soon as possible. That's what I need. And we do have a lot of trauma, a lot of unfortunate issues with addiction and things in the state. All of this has just led to this kind of general malaise of melancholy. And we have wonderful, incredible people who could do anything and everything. God has blessed West Virginia with the resources that we need to provide for ourselves and our citizens. But we need to know that we can do it. And when it comes to education, I would love to be able to have better training for the principals or the leaders of the school. That if you look at every story of a district or a school that has turned around, that has been at the bottom and rose to the top, it's because of the principal in that school. So leadership, I believe we absolutely need to improve our leadership. And then, of course, I've been advocating for greater pay for our teachers, but most of the money that West Virginia is throwing to education never makes it to the classroom. Too much bureaucracy, too much administration. So I could tell you, when I have found resistance to try to help make changes in education policy, I did decide to support school choice for parents, so that those children right now do not have to wait 10 years for when we're able to turn things around, but can seek what they need immediately.
Well, it creates competition. This is something I've been advocating for a long time, is that when you look at America and you look at just industry in general, right? There are two industries that seem to be in just woeful shape, right? And what are they? They are education and healthcare. And what do those two things have in common? They are heavily regulated and controlled by the government. It's a controlled economy. There is no, there's no competition. Even in our colleges, the government subsidizes all of these student loans, and these student loans have nothing to do with what's actually needed in the job market, and so you got all these people getting degrees, that are worthless, that maybe there are no jobs for, and then they're saddled with debt. And of course, the government has been in control, of our schools for a long time, since the Department of Education, came around. They've been controlling it from Washington. And if there's anything I've learned about West Virginia, it's that it's not one size fits all. Even within West Virginia, there are different regions with different needs. So when I was in the Potomac Highlands and, in campaigning there, it was a lot of, rural, you had a lot of, people who, if they stay there, they're going to end up in, agriculture most likely, and or in forestry or something like that. And then, you got some areas like, here in the Eastern Panhandle where we have a little bit more of a metropolitan feel in, Martinsburg and also in Parkersburg. And it's just different. Northern Panhandle, it's oil and gas is a huge industry there and provides a lot of jobs. So having the ability to have some flexibility within our school and the programs that are developed, I was fascinated by a program that I saw at, I think it was, the high school in Preston County, I think it's Kingwood High School, was amazing. They had a program there for training kids that want to go into butcher, become a butcher. And so they had a whole program set up where students can get a certification by the time they graduate. And the best part about it, the whole program pays for itself, because they're selling, pork and beef and sausage and all these things that they're making right there at the school, and it pays for the program. And I think that's a great thing. So I think having that kind of flexibility in the different regions is extremely important, and having those programs that are self-funded is wonderful. So
it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And we know that every single child is different. They all have different interests. Just within one family, you'll have three children. All three are very different. So it doesn't make sense that we put all of our eggs in one basket, support one system of education. And instead, it's a beautiful thing to acknowledge the differences, provide options for all, and let like you said, competition. The best rises to the top. And parents are happy, students are happy, teachers are happy. Teacher salaries increase everywhere when there's competition.
Yeah, I've got some comments in here in the comments, and I wanted to bring one of these up here. Somebody said they would suggest that there be more mandatory parental involvement. Most parents expect the educators to do to basically do parenting. What are your thoughts on that?
So I don't think you can mandate that, unfortunately, although I appreciate the sentiment. I really do. Parental involvement has been found to be the number one indicator of child success in school.
Yeah.
But you really can't force it. I can tell you that in some school districts, they actually do have parental involvement programs. Like, they will invite the parents in. They encourage parents to volunteer in the schools, and they have a much more openness to parents being in the classroom, being in the school during the day, in the evening, interacting with teachers. We don't have that in the Eastern Panhandle. I only represent Jefferson, Berkeley County. I can't speak for every single county, but one of the many things I tried to do was to reform the local school improvement councils, which is one of the ways in which a parent can be involved. And I found out when we did studies and did surveys that very few parents even knew that existed. So clearly, some of that responsibility does lie with us, meaning the administration of the schools, letting parents know, yes, we want you to please be involved.
And part of getting parents more involved is in giving them school choice and giving them options, right? If a parent has options where they can send their kid, if they're not happy with the public school there, they can, have the option. And on that note, how do you see the role of charter schools and other alternatives in West Virginia's education landscape, like homeschooling and that sort of thing?
So it is an incredible dynamic area where we are seeing a lot of innovation, a lot of growth of, just options for parents. So there are charter schools opening up. There's 3 right now. There's 5 more coming in the next couple of years. And they're geared towards specialized instruction in some way that is, something that parents are seeking, and there's someone trying to provide that. So that's really exciting. We also are seeing micro schools. We're seeing learning pods, which are basically homeschoolers getting together. And it's really amazing and innovative. I've seen some that start out with just a handful of families, and very quickly other families want to join in, and they're growing, but in an organic way. And there are folks who are concerned about this. It's like, oh, wait, but how do we know that they're doing a good job? Well, you know how we know they're doing a good job? Parents won't put their kids there if they're not happy, if they're
Right.
not getting
Right.
what they're looking for. It
Yep.
is the most direct, most accountable education option you have,
Yeah.
because if it doesn't succeed, it fails, it closes, it goes away, which is very different than our government-run schools.
So, speaking of parents, you've been a strong advocate for family values throughout your career. How do you see the role of government in supporting families? And what legislative priorities do you have in this area?
So I will tell you, yes, I have actually tried multiple years to pass a parental bill of rights. I feel very strongly that this is needed in the West Virginia law. We right now kind of have a nebulous statement in our Constitution, but it really needs clarity, and it's becoming more urgent every single day when we see some. I hate to say it, but some states, some organizations that believe that parents do not need to be told that their child is transitioning or that their child is questioning. They feel that parents don't have a right to opt out of their child listening to something that is against the family's values. That's not a good pathway for, our country, our freedoms.
Yeah.
I think it's a direct violation of our Constitution, which says the right to practice your religion, as you know. But on the other hand, it's also really scary to make government in the position that they know better than you do what your kids need.
Yeah.
That's just not something I'm ever going to support. In West Virginia, most folks don't know, we have more children in our foster care system than any other state, and we are double the closest state. So we have a state with one of the smallest populations in the United States, and we have more than double the next closest state in terms of children that are in state custody.
Wow.
So obviously something's broken. So I've been working to try to reform the foster care system, the CPS system. Every time
It definitely needs reform.
oh my goodness. So we've passed 4 major bills having to deal with it, and we're still just uncovering more and more that needs to be fixed and cleaned up. And it's very scary because those folks can come into your home, accuse you of something, and take your children away.
Yeah.
I mean,
And what we found is, that's an issue that came up during my campaign multiple times as I traveled around the state, where you had grandparents who maybe they're the children or the parent, was convicted of a drug crime or something. So they were in jail, and the grandparent who, were upstanding citizens, and they wanted to take care of their grandchild. And, in many cases they were denied, and it just didn't make any sense because you were separating these kids from anybody that they know. And it's just a horrible thing. And there was also, I think, one of the things with the rules here in West Virginia was if a child goes to a family member, they don't get the same level of support that they do if they're a stranger, which just doesn't make any sense. I think that a lot of the problems that we have in regards to our foster care program has to do with, just how messed up our family courts are, how messed up things are with CPS, and also obviously the drug problem. We got a massive problem, in regards to that here in West Virginia. And I think a lot of it has to do with what you said right off the very beginning, which is that there's a lot of people who have lost hope. And on that note of hope, what are your thoughts on the impact of the pandemic on West Virginia families, particularly in terms of education, and how can we help families recover from those challenges? I mean, I heard one story of a parent who had to drive their child to the school when the schools were shut down because they didn't have internet at their home. And so they had to go sit in the parking lot so their child could do, their work, with the school's internet. It's just crazy. But I think that a lot of the hopelessness, seems to have compounded because of COVID and because of, what happened. A lot of jobs lost and businesses shut down, and just an overall, I think, people living in fear and that sort of thing, has not helped. But what are your thoughts on that?
So there's no question that COVID pandemic hurt the state of West Virginia. Like you said, businesses shut down, folks lost their family businesses. Some businesses came back, but some didn't. They're gone. We still have empty, places in our market. And in addition, the way that the schools were closed for so long, well, clearly we, like many other states, were not prepared. We were not prepared to go remote. There was took a lot of time to get things functioning in some kind of organized way. And then once they did try to set up remote learning, like you said, there were many, many people in West Virginia who do not have access to internet. I don't have good internet where I live, and I'm a state senator. There's a lot of places where, we might have DSL, and it's very, very slow, not good for streaming. Some of us only have our Wi-Fi hotspots on our cell phones.
I was lucky to get Starlink. In its beta form. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to work from home, and certainly wouldn't be able to do this show because it uses a lot of bandwidth. And I'll tell you, I was shocked because I bought a fairly expensive home in West Virginia, and I just assumed that it had internet, and I didn't even ask. So when I showed up, and I'm like, how do I get internet turned on? And they're like, oh, there's no internet here, and I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it. So it is definitely that is something that please, if there's an opportunity to work on that and make that better, because that affects everything. It doesn't just affect
everything,
people at home, but businesses too. The e-commerce market nowadays, you need to have internet just to survive. So.
Yep, that's exactly right. And part of that, so we are investing, we are, increasing broadband availability, but the part of it we can't control. It's the lower population that we have. We're just not attracting the investment that a suburban area, obviously Loudoun County, Virginia, is going to attract a lot more investment than we are in our little state. So we do have to overcome those challenges, but it is something that is definitely a priority for me and for many legislators.
Yeah. Being a conservative leader in West Virginia, what are some of the core values you think the state needs to maintain or even strengthen in the coming years?
Core values. Okay. Well, we've talked already a little bit about how West Virginia already has this core value of goodness, of kindness, of generosity. Even though people are poor, they always will give. They always will donate. There's never a, collection that we do to help somebody who lost their home that doesn't have an overwhelming response. We really are truly living treating our neighbors with love. And that definitely is a core value in West Virginia, I think is good. Now, if we could get government out of the way, I think it would go a long way to helping increase that. For too long, West Virginians were told by the ruling political class that we will take care of you. And that became a habit for too many people. And so we have about 49% of our population that is not contributing towards the state, towards our taxes, or our coffers, who are not working. We need to change that mentality where they think, well, you need to take care of us, to what can I contribute? And whether it is working or whether it is volunteering or whether it is just finding where your talents could contribute to your community, there's really no reason to rely on the government for this. There's not a single thing I have found government does well or efficiently. So although I am in government, I can tell you, I see myself more as working to get government out of the way from people, deregulating and returning the power to the people, because you know better what your community needs than the government of West Virginia. But in terms of core values, personal responsibility, independence.
That's an important one.
Yeah, and I would love to see West Virginia be a state that is really self-sufficient within itself, which I think it's possible. We have rivers, We have hunting. We have resources, coal, gas, you already mentioned, oil. We have people with talent. We really, truly have everything you could possibly want. We have farmland. So let's work together, because we could provide for ourselves and then help the rest of the nation too.
Yep. You know, with you being in Jefferson County, or at least part of where does your district begin and end? Because maybe that's a good question to kind of start with.
So for those who know the West Virginia geography, there's like this little tip that goes like that. Sorry, I'm off camera. It goes like this, at this real little tip.
The
That tip,
Panhandle, right?
Eastern Panhandle, which borders Maryland and Virginia. And I represent all of Jefferson County, which is the first county, and part of the second county, which is Berkeley County. And the part of Berkeley County that I represent is essentially Inwood, Bunker Hill, all the way up to Geraldstown. So again, for those who know the geography, the entire southern part of Berkeley County is now in my district.
So with that said, obviously you do have a couple of areas within your district that are quite liberal, close to Maryland. How do you balance the expectations and the needs of your constituents while staying true to your conservative principles?
So that's actually not as hard as you might think. I listen to all. My door is open to all. And when I hear from those on the other side who may not necessarily be as conservative as I am, but I hear about their concerns for the poor, or for children, or for the elderly, or for, name it, fill in the blank. I can usually find things that we agree on, because I also care about those things. I also care about those individuals. And I can try to work with them on ways that we can find solutions that make both of us, agree on. For example, I have a great relationship with my opponent in this election, because he's an honest individual who will come to me and tell me what he honestly believes. I may not agree, but he'll hear me out on what I believe. And because we're both honest with each other, we can have good, frank conversations about, okay, so we don't agree on this approach. Maybe we can try a third approach, and we can have good conversations.
That's quite refreshing in this day and age. So I commend you on that. Folks, we got to cut to a commercial break to give a word to my sponsors, but stay tuned, because when we get back, we're going to talk about your legislative agenda and looking ahead and what you want to see happen, and also talk about your reelection campaign. So folks, hang in with us in this through this commercial.
Born in the coastal plains of South Texas, Smoking Gun Coffee is founded by combat veterans that know exactly what a cup of coffee needs to taste like. Run by father and son, each coffee bean is perfected, roasted at 500 degrees, and cooled with a Gulf Coast breeze. Smoking Gun Coffee hand makes and bags each ounce of coffee for maximum customer satisfaction. With every purchase, 10% goes back to organizations that help veterans and local communities. That's Texas made, one bag at a time. To find out more, go to www.smokingguncoffee.com.
Welcome back to the Raising Cain Show. I'm here with my guest, Senator Patricia Rucker. And folks, when we have these commercial Smoking Gun Coffee, just remember, when you buy Smoking Gun Coffee, you're supporting the show, and you're also helping veterans, and that's an important thing to remember. If you do go and check out the coffee and buy their coffee, make sure that you use the product code CAIN, and that helps the show. So before we left for the break, I was just talking about we were going to get into looking ahead, and so I want to ask you, what are the most important pieces of legislation that you're working on or plan to introduce if reelected?
So thank you for that question. I will tell you that I don't have a running list off my head. I'm working on so much. But obviously the child welfare piece is something that all summer long we've been having meetings to discuss, to really drill down. Where are the problems? Where are the holes, the vacancies where we need to fill We need to figure out why it's not functioning the way it's supposed to. A lot of this has been really come to a forefront because, of the children, the terrible child tragedies that we have had. So that piece of legislation is a work in progress with several legislators. I'm not working on it by myself, but really something that's very dear to my heart. We also have, lots of things I'm working on have to do with very specific issues people bring to me. And we have some legislation we're working on when it comes to regulations, surprise, surprise, of some of our businesses that we have here in the Eastern Panhandle. So it's very frustrating to me when I have business owners reach out to me and tell me that they can't open because of some requirement some agency has given them that changed. So they were told X, they did X. The agency says, well, now we need Y. They did Y. Well, now we need X. Like, no, that's not acceptable. So really, truly want to deregulate, to really streamline to what is necessary for safety, because there's a purpose to government regulations. People expect certain things. So if they buy a house, they expect that when they turn on the water's going to come out of the faucet. They expect that the doors will close and the windows will shut. Very basic things to expect when you buy a home. So you do want just enough regulations that you are getting what you expect from a construction of a home or a business. You want to make certain it's safe. It's not going to fall on you. Beyond that, it's getting a little bit insane. Like government should not be changing the regulations midway through a project, should not be changing contracts, and they should not be requiring things that are impossible for one to really realistically plan for and meet for. And you cannot expect a business or a home, for that matter, to be able to withstand anything and everything that could happen in the world. You prepare for what's reasonable, not, for things that are just beyond an expectation. So, just common sense. Can I say that? Common sense? Sorry.
Yep.
And so the regulation piece and getting government to really be a help to the citizens instead of a hindrance. I also, and I'm talking in generalities, but I actually have a bill that I'm working on. That's really what needs to happen. I also have legislation that I was very disappointed did not pass to basically prohibit DEI and diversity, equity, and for those who don't know, diversity, equity, and inclusion officers and the schools and policies, and that no one should feel that they are inherently racist or inherently bad because of the color of their skin or their background. I honestly believe in what Dr. Martin Luther King said, that we need to move beyond that and be focused on the character of a person.
Amen to that.
I don't know what to tell you, but it's
I think Dr. King would be rolling in his grave at just how backwards our country has moved in that area. I mean, it's like what happened to the content of your character. It's like that doesn't seem to matter anymore.
Like we truly, when I went to school, no one cared. No one looked. No one brought it up. We didn't talk about it. And I'm not that old, just so your audience knows. I mean, really what has been happening in the last 10, 12 years is an over concentration on color and on your nationality.
On victim points.
Yeah. And you can't help that. That's not something you had any control over.
That's right.
I mean, I happen to be a Hispanic, but as people can see, I'm pretty pale. Does that mean I'm a lesser of a Hispanic? I don't know what to tell you. Both my parents were from a South American country. It's just crazy. Come on, can we just move on from that? Plus, we're wasting money on it. And that's one of the biggest offenses to me, is that it is just taking money away from the students into other things that shouldn't be. So I would love to see that bill run. As you know, I'm big on the school choice, help pass school choice in West Virginia. There's cleanup that needs to happen there. There were things that we compromised on that makes those bills not be the best in the nation. I want to make them the best in the nation. I want to aim to have the best possible choices. And I also want to continue working with like I told you, with the principal training, with getting good leaders. If you have good leaders, you're going to have good teachers. Leaders know how to draw out the best in their staff, and they know how to appreciate them and make them feel like they're making a difference. And that's what teachers want. Most teachers go into the, profession, not because of the money, not because of the glory, but because they want to make a difference. And they truly want to see that light bulb come up for a child. All of our regulations in education and all of the politicizing in education, if we take that out of the way, we're actually going to see teachers who actually will return to loving teaching, which is what they wanted to do. Like me,
Yep.
That's what I wanted to do too.
Yep, definitely. During this last, I guess, election cycle, or I don't know what they call it, but basically your legislative session, and you had some real hard fought battles, and and there were people in the Senate that were not helpful. There's been some changes to the upcoming Senate, which I think is going to be wonderful. I think it's going to make things a little bit better. But I'm sure there are still a few people that are going to be difficult to work with and to get convinced to make some of these necessary changes. Are there any upcoming policy battles on the horizon that you feel will be particularly challenging or important for the people of West Virginia?
Well, as you know, like you said, there's going to be changes after this election. It is, of course, my hope that Patrick Morsi will be elected governor, and he is a very strong conservative Republican. I think that election by itself is going to mean huge changes, but he's going to need legislative friends to help him get his agenda through. And I know part of what he wants to do is make West Virginia actually the best, the shining state among those, in the East. We don't want to be in the end and in the back. We don't want Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee to be taking our citizens. We want to be the state that everybody wants to move into. So
I've always kind of said that, like how Florida is down in the South, East, right? It's like the Mecca for conservatives that so many have moved to. I'd like to see West Virginia become a Mecca for conservatives that want those conservative values to move here and invest here and build businesses here and bring their families here. I don't understand why there's not more of that already. Maybe it's just because people don't know enough about West Virginia, but I think that we absolutely have that potential to be that shining star, to be that Mecca, for conservatives, that safe place that they can come to and live out their dream and have, as much freedom as possible, be able to have constitutional carry and things like that. It just, to me, it makes sense. So I agree with you on that.
Well, thank you. And I think Patrick has that vision, and I want to support him. Just so folks know, because I know people listen to your podcast from all over the nation, we're second in the United States for your gun right freedom. So just know
right.
that.
And number one for most affordability. Like I just saw something on that recently, that we have the lowest cost of living anywhere in the country. So.
And I am a little biased, but I mean, I think it's the most beautiful state. I'm just saying.
I agree. We do have an absolutely gorgeous state. I never thought I would ever say this, but I've come to love the Four Seasons. I grew up in Southern California, so I always loved warm weather, and I hated it when I first moved to the Northeast. And but I've come to appreciate and love having all four seasons, because winter, and I'm looking forward to winter, because right now the gnats are terrible, and I want to see all those deer flies and gnats killed. And so that's the beauty of winter, is it just kind of wipes that out and you get to start over.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So you're running for re-election. What are some of the key issues you're focused on in your campaign, and what message do you want to send to the voters of District 16?
Oh, wow. So key issues: family, as I've mentioned, deregulation, making government smaller, more streamlined, and protecting our rights. And that's all of the rights, that we have. So that's really like the 3 key points. Now, of course, I want jobs. Of course, I want lower taxes. Of course, I want to protect, life and our Second Amendment rights, of course. But key issues, family values, and of course, those rights. And see, I already forgot my, I got off track. But
Right.
I will tell you that the campaign is, I'm going door knocking almost every single day. The only days I'm not door knocking is when I have to travel. You can tell I'm traveling now. But door knocking every day that I'm home. I am available to meet with folks. I put out my personal cell phone out on my website. If folks reach out to me, I'll meet them for coffee at Black Dog Coffee there in Jefferson County in Curtisville, or somewhere else. And I want to hear from them. That's right. And I want to hear from my constituents and know what they're, what they would like me to do. I try to make myself available. You mentioned the story about me responding to your email. Yeah. I check and read my own emails, and I respond to my phone calls. I don't have anyone else doing that for me. It's me doing it all. And I think that's my job. As a representative of the people, I'm supposed to be available. So I spend a lot of time doing that. I'm also going to businesses and organizations that are inviting me to come see, what challenges they have.
That's great. How can your supporters help you in your reelection effort? And what do you see as, some of the most important factors for winning over undecided voters?
Well, that's really tough. I will tell you, especially in my district, we have so many undecided voters who do not pay attention to West Virginia politics because they're working in Maryland, Virginia, or DC. So just getting them to know who I am and why they should vote it's a big deal. And in the Eastern Panhandle, we don't really have a big media market. Really, the best thing is direct mailers or social media. Yeah. Like the newspapers, the radios, I do some of that when I can, when I have the money for it. But the most direct way to reach voters is social media that can be, geared to your audience, or mailers. And anyone who would like to help me can go to my website, patriciarucker.com, just my name. And there's a donate button or information of where you can send a check.
And let me make a comment on that. Listen, folks, I ran probably the most grassroots campaign out of everybody that was running in the race. And it was a tough race. I was up against 4 other people. And I really believe that what was the difference between winning and losing for me was the fact that I did not have enough financial support to do the direct mailers. Direct mailers are very important in West Virginia because a lot of people, like we've already mentioned, unfortunately, 80% of the people that vote in primaries are over age 55. And most of those people don't have social media. And so the best way, for Senator Rucker to be able to reach these people is to knock on their door. But you, as one person, you can't even get to every single person's door. And so that's why direct mail is so important, but it's also expensive. Direct mail is probably the most expensive part of running an election. So, it's important. If you live in West Virginia and you're watching, and right now we have 748 people watching the show right now. If you live in West Virginia, there's no reason for you not to support Senator Rucker. If she's talking about things that you believe in, it's important to support her campaign because it's every single, your person who you elect is only one vote in that Senate. They're only one vote in that House. And it's important to support other candidates in other districts that will have an impact on you by what they're voting on and what they're supporting. And I can who will return your call, who will listen, even if you're not her constituent. And that's one of the things that I have found just to, be a blessing about her. And so that's why I'm such a strong advocate for her, even though she's not. I wish she was my senator, but she's not. And but I do consider her a friend, and I consider her one of the good ones. And so please, if you can, make a donation. And it doesn't matter if you have a small donation or a large donation, every little bit counts. I can tell you from experience, it is the help that comes from people like you that are listening and watching that can help good senators and good delegates get in there, and that can actually make a difference. Last thing I want to one of the other things I wanted to kind of bring up and ask you about, and as a female leader in a predominantly male-dominated field, and I think West Virginia, one of the challenges I think here is, there's that good old boy network, right? And what challenges have you faced in that, and how do you overcome it? Because you clearly have overcome it. And what advice would you give to other young women that are considering a career in politics?
Well, thank you for that question. I will tell you that, yes, I'm definitely the minority in terms of female representation. There are 4 women senators in the West Virginia Senate. And not that I care, but it is very obvious that I have a different approach to politics and to serving that from my other colleagues. And none of it is bad. We're just different. We're all different. Mm-hmm. I do think that there are some men who don't expect a woman who will stand up for herself and her opinions, and who, don't really know how to handle that, maybe don't have that experience in their lives. But one thing, for the folks who know me, they know I do not back down from a fight.
That's that Latino in you.
I grew up with 4 brothers. I feel like God prepared me. I know how to stand my own. But I'm not trying to fight with anyone, right? So the point is to persuade, to educate, to help bring people to your view of things. And that's really the method that I use when it comes to challenges or folks who don't agree with me. I am a Christian, so therefore I believe they're all my brothers. And it's my duty to love them. So whether they agree with me or not, whether they're very different from me or not, whether they, have different values than me, I still pray for them and want them to be the very best they can be. So I try to treat every single one of the folks, and not just legislators, the staff and everyone in the Capitol, with the Christian love that I believe I'm supposed to do. But I will tell you, there are days and there are times in which I need prayers. So I'm always so happy when folks pray for me. And I know that it's those prayers from friends and folks out there, folks I don't even know, that sustain me and keep me going. So I know I could not do this without God. He's my rock.
Amen. You mentioned earlier, we were talking about some of the issues that West Virginia faces, and one of them has been our young people leaving the state. And this is an issue that comes up at every campaign meeting I've ever been to. And I'm curious, what ideas do you have about how we can turn that around? How can we keep people, young people in particular, here in West Virginia, and how can we attract, more people to come to the state? Obviously, we want to attract the right crowd. I don't prefer to have the left crowd come. But what are some ways that you think that we might be able to keep young people here and attract, new people here?
Well, I will tell you, we're doing it. We are literally doing it. So the Eastern Panhandle is having the reversed issue from most of the state. Mm-hmm. We are finding young people moving here, leaving Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and finding their home here. So we're getting it right here. And part of it is our lower cost of living. And part of it is that we are growing and able to provide more entertainment and more access to things. And we have a great location where we are in the Eastern Panhandle, close to everything. In half an hour, you can get to just about anything you could possibly want. Yeah. The rest of West Virginia is going to have a tougher time with that. They don't have that ideal location necessarily. And it is, although it's a lot more affordable than it is even here, you have to think about a young person, they're looking for a nightlife. And you're not going to get that in the hollers of West Virginia too much. So I actually believe that the best way that we're going to fix this population issue is to, again, remember I told you about that hope thing? Folks inherently know West Virginia is a great place to be, to visit. We have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of tourists. As a matter of fact, there might be millions of tourists that come to visit West Virginia every year.
Yeah.
We need to make certain that we are welcoming and that we have areas where they feel they could stay here and they could raise their families safely. So safety, freedom that we're working on, giving that opportunity and showcasing what's best about our state. And those are the folks that you're talking about. Those are the folks we want to attract and will be attracted to us because we are providing them that.
Internet is a big part of that, and especially for young people, especially in the job market. Like with my job, fortunately, I have internet here thanks to Elon Musk. I'm able to work remote. Otherwise, I'd have to be making a commute down to Sterling every day. So I think that's a big part of it. We might be able to, increase some, higher paying, high tech jobs if we can make sure that we have good internet infrastructure in our state. So I would definitely encourage you, and I'd be willing to help look at ways that we might be able to help do that. I mean, obviously, cybersecurity and IT is kind of my, forte, and I've had a long career in that. But I always give, we're coming up here on the hour, and I want to wrap things up. But I always like to give the final word to my guest. And Senator Rucker, is there anything that you would like to leave with our audience today? We've got almost 800 people on that are watching the show. And, in terms of your vision for West Virginia and the work that still needs to be done, what is the one thing that you want people, if they can only remember one thing, what would that be for them to take away from this conversation?
No pressure or anything. So I honestly, so folks know, the folks in West Virginia know, they know of me, at least somewhat. I've made headlines. I've created a lot of enemies. And the reason is because I actually believe what I say, and I say what I do. All of the things that I get attacked and criticized for is all things I ran on, and I promised my constituents I would do. So I want folks to please remember how hard it is for the conservatives that are elected, because a lot of folks have just lost faith in politicians, lost faith in the media, lost faith in so much, right? They just, it's all so awful. There are some of us who do actually stay true, stay principled, don't change, consistently fight for you. And I got to tell you, we need your help. We need you to stay involved, to care, to support fellow conservatives. It just makes such a difference. If we have a legislative body that reflects you, honest, consistent, conservative, principled individuals, I could work with almost anyone, especially if they're honest, if they're honest people. But there isn't enough, and we need more. And you know how we get better people? You run, or you get someone else to run. We need to recruit better people, better candidates, and that's how we're going to get the government that we want in West Virginia.
Well, you played a huge role, I think, in recruiting Tom Willis to run, and that was a successful campaign. And so I'm excited to see him. I had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he's another one I think that's going to do great things. And a lot of that is thanks to you, reaching out to him. And I know you tried to get me to run at the state legislature. Unfortunately, there's a rule prohibiting, you got to live here for 5 years before you can run for state senate. But and for me, I was just shy of that by a year. But otherwise, I'm going to consider it.
Next time.
Well, now hopefully Tom gets in there, and then I'll have a good senator in there, that I can reach out to. So I always end my show in prayer, and I know you appreciate that. And so I'm going to go ahead and just close us in prayer, and then I'll go ahead and close up the show. Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much, Lord, for good leadership in our state, and I especially thank you for Senator Rucker, Lord, and for all of the good things and she's doing, Lord, and representing you and I think the interests of the people of West Virginia. I thank you, Lord, for her willingness to take on the onslaught of attacks that have, come up against her, Lord, and she has been true to you and true to the people that she represents. And I thank you for her hard work. I thank you for her diligence and her willingness to listen. I pray that you would bless her campaign, that you would provide for it, Lord, that you would bring in everything that's needed for her to successfully secure a win. And I pray, Lord, that you would, continue to have her in there, Lord. We need people like her. And I pray your blessing over her and her family. I know how hard it is to campaign, and I just pray you would bless her family, and especially as she, has to sometimes be away, involved in issues with the campaign. I pray for our state. Pray that you would bless it, Lord, that you would help us to secure good leadership in all areas. And I pray, Lord, that you would bless our nation and that you would restore our nation, Lord, to being a great nation again, and remove those that are corrupt from power at all levels of government. Lord, we pray your blessing over tonight, and thank you for all this. I pray for all those that are watching, Lord, and just ask that you would bless them as well. Lord, you know their needs better than they do, and I pray that you would meet them where they are and meet their needs. Ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, folks, please remember to like and subscribe to the show, and we're going to be having a couple of extra shows this week because I've had so many really great guests that wanted to come on. So you'll see some new shows coming on. So, stay tuned, and don't forget, you can follow me on social media at Nate Cain for WV. And you can also follow me on the raisingcainshow.com, and we post all of our videos there. So you can, if you missed a video and you want to go back and watch a show, you can go back and you can watch a show there. And there's other shows too that I do, like talk radio and some others. And so we also post those up there as well. And I've been doing a lot of writing of articles as well, and putting articles in Substack. And so I would encourage you guys to check those out as well. You can find my Substack, I think it's called the Nate Cain Intelligence Briefing. And, and I came up with that because of my background, working for the intelligence community and the military. And so I kind of look at all of the things that are going on in the world, and I write a lot of articles about that sort of thing. So check it out, and give me feedback. Let me know what you think. God bless you guys. Remember to stay vigilant and stay free.
Raise some Cain. You gotta raise some Cain. In the heartland where the faith runs strong, we've seen the shadows growing long. Watch those around us be deceived. Yeah, the fight is at our doors, no matter who we believe. Corruption, lawless day and night, we'll speak the truth into the light. We'll bring the battle, heed the call, watch the whole thing fall. We gotta raise some Cain, show the lies, break some chains and make things right. Feel the power, be the change. Time is now. We gotta raise some Cain.